Hi guys, this is Mackenzie with Terrapin Creek Designs. If you've clicked this video, I am assuming you've purchased one of our take and make kits at a craft show, and this is the instructional video on how to paint this ornament. Today we're doing the Santa tracker. There are 5 of these ornaments. There's a Santa, a reindeer, a snowman, Mrs. Claus, and a bear, a polar bear, I believe. So this particular video is going to be for the Santa tracker. With each kit, you'll get a list of what your kit includes and a QR code. The QR code will lead to our link tree. And there is our Facebook, our Etsy, our Instagram, and then a link for all of these instructional video. Any take and make kit that you purchase will have an instructional video that go along with it. Let me preface, this is the first time that I've ever videoed myself. So if this is kind of squirrely and all over the place, that is why. And I'm going to go ahead and apologize for that in advance. But I figure some people may do these for craft parties or girls' nights or Christmas parties or what have you, and these videos may be of use to you. So I figured I would make them for you. Each kit, when you open it, will come with ornament, your ornament pieces, your bow, your twine, and your bead. You have a sponge, a paintbrush, a bottle of glue, and then all of the paint that you'll need for the ornament. I will say everything you need to make your ornament will be included in your kit. There are a few things around your house that could make this process a little smoother for you, so I'll give you those helpful hints as we go. But I will paint the ornament with everything that I have and not use anything extra, just so that you know without a doubt you can paint this with the kit. You don't need anything extra. What I like to do, because it's accessible to me, is I have painter's tape. I have 2 different sizes, a thick and a thin, and I like to use them to help kind of hold my pieces down as I paint them. It just keeps them stationary. So I take my thicker tape, move this out of the way, take my thicker tape and I lay it down sticky side up, and I take the thinner tape and I just use it to tape it to my table, sticky side up, and it just helps hold all your pieces in place as you paint them. So I'm going to start with the ring. It is red. My printer is kind of running out of ink, so you can't really tell that it's red, but it is red. And we are going to paint this with the sponge. This is engraved. All the letter, no, they're not. It's scored. All the lettering is scored. You can barely feel it, but paint can get in those little crevices. So I find that using the sponge is better for these than using the paintbrush. And if you have a pair of scissors next to you or accessible to you, you can cut your sponge down and essentially make like 6 sponges out of 1 sponge, which is what I like to do. So I'm going to do that while we're getting everything else ready. And then another thing that just makes it easier when you're using your sponge is if you happen to have a paper plate, it makes it a lot easier to get your paint out of these little pots if you can pour it out on a plate, rather than trying to smush your sponge into this little paint pot. So we're going to start with our red. Just pour a little out. And we're going to go around our whole ornament with the red paint. And I do find that dabbing it works a lot better than like rubbing your sponge. If you rub it, paint can get in these little creases. And while there are tools and things that you can use to get the paint out of the creases, I'd much rather only have to do it once than have to go back and clean my mess up, although I have to do that quite often, but that's just part of the territory with DIY, is having some mess ups along the way. But that also makes them homemade and makes them special, so I don't really mind having to fix many messes. So once we have all of our red down, if you were to happen to get paint in a little crevice, you can use a bobby pin, the back of an earring, anything with a point. I get these at Dollar Tree, and they just have like a needle point at the end, and you can just scrape the letter and it'll get the paint right out, no problem. So we've got that painted. We're going to set it aside, and then we're going to open our other ornament set. This is the Santa. I also like to put like colors together So I only really have to paint things, like get paints out once. So I'll do that. I will say though, if you get your piece and one side looks like this and one side looks like this is always the back. All of this scorching on the back is just from the laser. So you're going to use the cleanest side. You can also match it up with your ornament piece to see which it works best with and be able to tell. But it's always the least scorched side is your top piece. So that's white. His mustache, the brim of his hat, the star and his bell are yellow. I think in the picture his star is red. I'm going to make his star yellow. So all of your kits, you can do whatever you want with your color options. You don't have to do them the way that they're done on the picture. Obviously, they're totally customizable. You can do them however you like. Okay, so for his hat, the top half is red. I'm going to try to do this with a sponge as well. I always prefer using the sponge rather than paintbrushes, mainly just because I do these a lot and I do a lot of ornaments, and sponges are more efficient for me. So I've learned better with sponges than I have with a paintbrush. There will be some that I will use a paintbrush on just so you can kind of see how I do it. But I think for this red, I'm really going to try, since I have this pointed part of my sponge, I'm going to try to get right along. We'll see how this works. Right along the edge. Let's see. This whole hat is red. So we're just going to go right up against, actually, this goes on here. So it's really okay if it goes a little past that line. It doesn't have to be cool. It doesn't have to be perfect. So, and some of your colors will take 2 coats. Your white specifically should always take 2, maybe 3, depending on how big of a surface area you're trying to cover. But probably 2. And I always keep a baby wipe on him too to get some of the paint off so I don't transfer to other pieces. But so his mustache, his hat brim, and then his beard are all white, and I'm going to do those with a sponge as well. Let's see, we're going to pour white out. Test how it sponges. I like this side better. And then I always dab off the extra just so it doesn't pool on what you're painting. I just kind of dab it off and then just go in, and we're going to sponge these. This is the first year we've actually done DIY kits. We've only been doing this for a year, one Christmas season. So this is our second Christmas season. And we talked about doing DIY kits last year. We just never really got around to it. So this year we're really hoping that these do well. I know obviously I love DIY projects, but I know I would love if we just had like a girls' night or something and we were doing this together with a big group or a youth group, or just given as a Christmas gift. I think these would be really cool if you have teenage kids or little kids. We have more ornaments that are going to be DIY kits as well that are kid friendly. They're like just a few pieces, but if you have smaller kids who like painting and coloring and things, we'll have other options for DIY kits as well. Let's see. Our white done. All right, I think that's pretty good. And then we have our eyes, and it's like you'll have a light pink for Santa's nose, and then you'll have like a tan color for his skin, and they're kind of similar. They're different in person. They look the exact same on camera. This is the skin and this is the nose. But I think the nose is just a little like blush pinkish to make it look like a wind burnt, I guess. But what am I doing? This is the skin. And whenever they have engravings on them, I always like to use the sponge because the paintbrush I find that can get in those little holes really easy, or the divots, and a sponge just kind of dusts right over them so it doesn't pool in those crevices. So that is what I do. And we'll use the paintbrush for the nose, and I'll use it for the star as well. And it may just be like a shade pinker than the skin pink, just enough to kind of give it that wind burnt kind of look. Okay. Oh, I've lost my towel. Okay. And then we're going to do the gold. And you should have plenty of paint. I know those little paint pots are pretty small, but it should be more than enough paint to do your ornament. So don't worry about that. And I will say using your paintbrush is going to use a lot less paint than using your sponge. The sponge is mainly all about preference. If you prefer the sponge method over the paintbrush. And when you do these projects at home, or you do this one and you decide you really like it, or you already do them already, if you do the sponges, usually I'll do them in like the full-size sponge. And then once I'm done for the night, I just trim off the painted part, and I'll just keep using the same sponge over and over and over until I have barely any sponge left. But there, you can get many uses out of one full-size sponge. Okay, for time's sake, I'm going to use a hair dryer to dry this before we assemble. You don't have to use a hair dryer if you don't want to. You can. I use a hair dryer a lot. I have it just chilling on my desk here. But I'm going to go ahead and dust these really quick with a hair dryer. Make sure they're good and dry, and then we'll begin assembling our ornament. Okay, so once they're all dry, I'm going to just move my tape up so you can see kind of what I'm doing here. Keep you in frame. You can tell I'm on my craft desk. It's just awful. Okay, so we're going to start with this, our top layer. We're going to get our glue bottle. We're just going to go, see all the scorch marks from the laser? It just means my laser needs to be cleaned, but still works like a charm, and that takes a lot of time to clean it. So we'll clean it later. And if you get a big pool, let's say like a big dab, and you think it's going to leak out when you go to press it onto your ornament, you can just use your finger, or if you have sponge pieces left, you can use your sponge. Just kind of dab it around, and it'll help it not seep out the edges so much. Some people do not like getting things on their fingers. I don't mind getting things on my fingers. And this glue, it's not Elmer's glue, but it rolls off of your fingers like Elmer's glue. So it's not like super glue where you're stuck with your fingers feeling like plastic for days. It'll come it comes right off. And the glue does not dry instantly. So when you put your ornament together, if you need to slide it around a little to make it fit perfect, you can. You have about 45 seconds before it completely glues down where you can't move it. Okay, so then we're going to put on the Santa head. And depending on how big the pieces that I'm putting on will depend on whether I put the glue on the surface or on the actual piece that I'm gluing. It doesn't matter which way you do it. They both work the same way. And since I already have glue there, I'm going to pop his face in. Just like that. And then we'll do the bell. And this QR code does track Santa. It actually tracks him. And this is a painted board. We buy them like this. I would not paint over this white base part. I don't know that wouldn't affect your QR code. So the base of all of these ornaments, this white part should always be white. I would not paint over it. I don't know if that would affect the usage of the QR code. So just a helpful hint there. I wouldn't paint over it. You can try. It may not affect it at all, but it could. So, okay, we're gonna line up Santa's hat. It's perfect. And then his mustache. Got a little heavy pour on that one. His mustache fits just snug right under the hat. And then his nose right on top. And his star. The brim, is that the brim of Santa's hat? I'm not really sure what you would call that. Just goes right there. And that is our ornament. And then we'll put the bow and the twine on it. If you are doing these for for a paint party or something with your friends, I will tell you that they make Hobby Lobby. It's super, super cheap. I don't know how much. I'll have to look and see how much it actually is, but they make something called glossy accent, and it makes your image. Let me see if I can find my Santa that has it. This Santa has it. See how they kind of look wet, like shimmery? It just gives it that effect. It's really fun to do. We aren't going to do it on this ornament because it's not included in our kit, but glossy accents, and they make littler bottles too if you just want to try it, see if you like it. Once you put it on, it kind of floods it. So you're going to drop it on and then just flood it around. And it takes about an hour to dry on a small surface. Let's say if I were covering this entire ornament, I may leave it overnight, but it dries and it makes it look really pretty. So we got it assembled. Now we are going to take our things out of here. If your bow is kind of smashed up from being in your little package, if you put your fingers in the loops downward, like facing you, put them in where you're pointing at yourself. And then you can take your middle fingers and your thumbs and grab the tails of your bow. You can reposition it to try to make it come back to life. This one's just going to be a little curved, but that's okay. That's totally fine. Once we get it on there, it's going to look darling. Okay. So we're going to take our twine and you're going to fold it in half, and we're going to find our center, the center of the twine. If you have, another hint, if you have a paper clip laying around, you can cut it in half, bend it back and forth until it breaks in half. And I use needle nose pliers and kind of pinch the end so it'll fit through. You want it to fit through your ornament and you want it to fit through your bead. And you can use it as a threader. So you would just hook your twine on this and thread it through your bead, and then unhook, and it's already threaded. But because it's not included in the kit, I'm not going to use it, but these are awesome. And they're super simple, little helpful things if you're working with little kids to do this project, or if you just want to save your fingers from twisting this twine. But you're going to twist it, and you're going to hold it and kind of twist it onto your bead. It's really simple to get it on there, and then you're going to keep twisting it and twist it right through your ornament hook, and you're going to, or ornament hoop, and you're going to go from the front to the back. So your bead should be on top of your ornament. And you're going to slide your bead to the tip where they two come together, not all the way, but pretty far down there. And you're going to open it up from the back and put your bead through the hoop and pull up so that your bead is past the point of your hoop. Okay. And then you're going to take this, you're not going to cinch it down yet. You're going to take this hoop right here, this loop that we created. Let me put the bead through, and you're going to put one tail of your bow and one loop of your bow. And then we're going to pull this part. And it's kind of finicky because you're working with twine, so it's kind of going to want to stick to itself. Pull it down. Then you're going to slide your bead down, and we're going to put a knot right at the top of our bead. So I'll twist it, and then once I get it like this, I just hold back here. I hold it down to my ornament so it doesn't make the knot slide up the twine. He holds it right on top of that bead, and then I cinch it tight, and it'll hold it right there. Your bead won't move up and down your twine, and it secures your bow in place. Then we're going to put another knot at the top, and that is your completed Santa tracker ornament. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, this little paint with me, and check out our page or Etsy or Facebook, anywhere you can find us online, to make sure you keep up with any kind of DIY kits we have coming out in the future. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. God bless.